Hi, welcome back to the Arcade Repair Tips video series. Today we're going to talk about troubleshooting light guns with our good friend Michael. We're at his house today and looking at his Lethal Enforcer game. I know a lot of you have probably shied away from getting light gun games because you've heard the guns don't work, or you go to auction, they're not working. We're going to show you some very simple things that you can check. First off, try to get your light gun working. The main thing right off the bat that we want to do is to get into the test mode. Now your test mode is where here, Michael?
Mine's located just right here in the front. Other games I've seen them, in different locations, some in the back. So.
Okay, so once we're in the test mode, we're going to go to the gun check. Once that screen is brought up, they're all going to be a little different. If it says the word calibration, try to do that, because sometimes you can calibrate your gun, and that may solve your problems. But we're going to test this gun. And you can see this one's shooting pretty good right now. So I'm having some trouble up in that corner though. Even adjust right there, I could do it. So there's a couple things. See, I'm having trouble in that bottom corner. There's a couple things that we're going to try. Michael, you can test your gun, see how it's doing. So pretty common that it'll shoot really good in the middle a lot of times. But as you get to the outside edges, yours is shooting pretty good. But that's frustrating when you're playing a game. Let's say we're playing a hunting game, and the ducks or whatever are going way to that corner, and we can't get them. So here's a few things that we can do to help us. Well, one of the very first things is really simple. If there's a lens on the outside of this gun, and if that's not clean, if that's dirty, and it's real common to get dust and stuff out in your game room, if that lens is not really clean, what we like to do is you can take a little Windex and like a Q-tip or a cotton swab, and that gets that really clean like that. Use some glass cleaner or something. I would try to avoid using rubbing alcohol or anything like that, anything too strong, because it's just a piece of plexiglass. Also, if that gets scratched, that's going to affect it, and those can be bought from HAP or somewhere. You can just replace just that part. So once you know that that's clean, even just simply taking a piece of cloth or your shirt or something, getting up in there, so that needs to be very clean. Now, the next thing is that affects it greatly is the monitor brightness. And Michael, can you help expound on that? Why does that affect your gun game?
These are light guns, so they interact with the light. Of course, the light comes from the monitor. The best way to adjust it is everyone's seen when you turn up your brightness and you get the retrace lines, the lines that go diagonal across the screen. The monitor, in my opinion, needs to be just below that. So if you'll turn your monitor up to where you see the lines, and then just back it down just enough for those lines to disappear, and that seems to work real well.
Yeah, now gun game is different than say a Galaga or something, because on Galaga I like to turn it down and get it really black and dark. If you do that, your gun game's probably not going to work very well. So like you said, turn it up until you're getting those lines that are going kind of across the screen, then back it off just a hair.
Yeah.
So
the older the games, the more you see that. If you get a brand new light gun game, it may be different, but the older games like this one, the monitor starts getting weaker, so you have to really turn it up.
Right. And then the next thing is, remember that light affects it. So we're in a pretty good shape right here in your garage. If we scooted it back though, and we're right under that fluorescent light, you've got light coming down. And I know a lot of people have, game room signs, neon things. I think a fluorescent light really does throw a lot of light and can affect it too, right?
I agree. Natural light, sunlight is a real, in my shop with the big windows, the sunlight just kills it, it won't work at all.
Right. Yeah, so, at Chuck E. Cheese, they'd always try to get a gun game up by the windows or something. We're like, it won't work over there. Usually you'll find them in a darker corner, so you might just need to move your game to a darker part of your game room or keep it out from under light. So those are just a couple of quick things that you can check. Now we'll take the gun apart and we'll show you some internal things. Okay, so let's take a look inside our gun and see what's going on. The first thing that you're going to have to do is, as you can see, I've removed all these screws that are holding the gun together, and they all have a security Torx bit. I believe this is a number 15. Right here you can see this bit, the kind that has the hole, like a star bit that has a hole in the bottom. I got this whole set right here from Bob Roberts for about $10 or something like that. He throws some specials on that. These come in really handy. Also, just a quick tip, as a lot of people don't know this, this is a 1/4 inch or a little red nut driver, as we like to say in our videos sometimes, Craftsman 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch nut driver fits that bit size right there. So that's just a quick tip that will help you. A lot of people don't know that, and a lot of game parts and stuff, some of the standoffs and stuff use that 1/4 inch, and you can, very handy tool. Well, I actually have about 3 or 4 of these because I use them so much. But anyway, now once we've removed all the screws, we can open it up, and as you see as I lay open the 2 gun halves, just a couple of really important parts. You heard me talk about the lens. Well, this is the lens. It actually will come out in just a little clear lens like that, so that needs to be clean. That's the first thing that I would check. Then you also have a little circuit board here. Not everybody has this little protector. I do like it because it does help to focus the light, infrared, you know, kind of like a tunnel that it would go through. So if you don't have one of these, it's okay, but it does help. So if your gun has that, that gets dusty too, so you can clean that. And then here is the circuit board, and it's usually held on by a couple screws. I think the last time I bought one of these, they were about $20 from Hap. So most of the time, if it's not this and this part right here, what usually breaks is this sensor on the end, infrared light. Sometimes you can get just that and replace that, or you can buy the whole board. And anyway, that's what we're talking about right here. And here's where your wiring comes up. So I can't exactly remember what wires it is offhand, but I'm sure if you found the schematic, you could figure out which one. I think the red is your 5 volt and black is probably ground, something like that. You can make sure that you are getting voltage to your circuit board, because if you don't have voltage, this light's not going to turn on and reflect through this lens down here. Other than that, you know, you have a trigger switch here. That ought to be clicking right there, so that as you pull the trigger, it actually hits the switch. Got a couple wires there and so forth. So the rest of it's pretty simple and explanatory, self-explanatory. What we just want to do is open it up, give you guys an idea. There's not a lot in here. Now some of them have a solenoid or a coil right here, and that would be for a kick. And so if that's not kicking right, sometimes a little rubber piece will get down in there, making sure that it's actually, what you're hearing, the clicking noise, is that actually hitting the plastic like that. So that's what's making the click. So you want to make sure that there's nothing in there that's stopping that. You can also buy just that coil and replace just that part. It's pretty simple to wire up. You guys would figure that out really simply. Anyway, so now that you got all that and get everything back together, then that's some good areas to check. There's a few components on here if you really want, you know, but they're kind of surface mounted and stuff. My recommendation is, if you don't want to, if it's not this, a lot of times, maybe I can bring this up and show a little closer. The legs on this little sensor right here will get broke, and sometimes you just have to resolder that or replace that. If it's not that, I just replace the whole board. For $20, it's really not worth trying to desolder some of those surface mounted chips and stuff. But it does have to have this lens. And also, this one, like I said, has this cover. I have seen this kind of get bent. This one also has this little black cover. I have seen that just kind of get bent up or out like that. If it's not straight, you're not going to get a very good line of sight, and it'll do some crazy things. So make sure that that's down and that's straight. And then all we got to do is put it back together. And so I hope that that's helped you a little bit if you're having light gun issues. Pretty easy to fix though. Okay, now just to recap a little bit, we talked about some problems that you can do just adjustment-wise, cleaning-wise, and also the internal parts. A couple other things we want to mention before we go, and that would be that you want to make sure the voltage is right. In other words, every circuit board requires power to work and for that infrared beam to shoot out, so we want to make sure if this is a 5 volt or 12, whatever your gun may be. Check your manual and then you want to check your voltage going to your gun to make sure that it's plenty. Also remember that these don't hook up JAMA. They usually have a separate hookup, so you want to check your connection back at your board. Usually they plug up somewhere separately, kind of like a trackball does. So we want to make sure the connection is good. Sometimes refreshing that connection will make a world of difference. Anything else you want to tell us about a monitor that can help, Michael?
Well, like I said, these are older games, most of them, and the monitor does get weaker over time. So if you turn up your brightness and you can't get the retrace lines, or it just look washed out or faded, it's probably time to recap the monitor or replace what's going wrong, maybe even a tube. I've seen a lot of games that I thought the game was bad, or the guns were bad, when it really was just the monitor. And decausing the monitor, if you have a lot of, we call it the rainbow look, or the washed out, where it looks to be degaussed, that will help a lot too.
Okay. So anyway, to recap, I hope that you've learned some stuff today, and that you're not afraid now to go buy a light gun game. We go to an auction, and sometimes they're not working, but they're very fixable and repairable, and they're pretty inexpensive to fix, especially compared to buying a new gun. So anyway, thank you guys for watching Arcade Repair Tips video series. Remember, there's many ways that you can contact us. I'm sure you know those by now, but now that we fixed the game, we're going to play the game. See you guys later.